Yo, dudes, Oren here. Welcome to another primetime preview where we'll be going over the Sunday night football game of week one, where the Dallas Cowboys go and take on the New York Giants. I'll be talking about who I think will have the advantage for the offense, for the defense, the special teams, the coaching, and then I'll give a final verdict. And we're going to be seeing these two teams quite a bit. I was just looking at the first 6 weeks, the first third of this season, and trying to compare who's getting the most primetime games. And as far as primetime games go, the Giants have the most out of everybody with 4 primetime games within these first 6 weeks. And Dallas is tied for second with 3 primetime games, along with the Kansas City Chiefs, who for 3 primetime games, and they already played their first one. So, I guess people in New York City as well as in Dallas really love their NFL games. So, whatever makes money for the NFL, I suppose. All right, let's talk about the offenses. When you look at Dallas and their statistics, the thing that jumps out at you is they're pretty much mid in a lot of their offensive categories, but they are right there at the top with scoring points. So they're mid in terms of the yards they gain, but they still manage to put up a whole lot of points regardless of that. So they scored 467 points last season, which ranked third in the NFL last year, and that was an average of 27.5 points per game, which was ranked fourth. So. And everybody knows who they have on offense at this point. You know, Dak Prescott is their quarterback, although now he has Trey Lance on the team now, breathing down his neck, and it'll probably be a situation like Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers, where the team got this new quarterback and was like, oh, I better start playing well. And that's what happened there. And that might be what happened with Prescott here. So we'll see how that happens. They also have Tony Pollard as a running back now. They got CeeDee Lamb, one of the top ones in the wide receivers. They brought over Cooks from Houston, so that should be a good addition. The offensive player, though, I want to highlight for Dallas, though, is Jake Ferguson. He was a 4th-round draft pick from the 2022 draft, so about just over a year ago, round 4, selection 129. This is going to be his second year. His overall PFF grade was 66.1, but his receiving grade was 75.2, which is all right, pretty good. And then his run blocking grade was 56.2, which a little bit lower for a tight end. So I get the feeling that Jake Ferguson might be one of those players who might develop well into his sophomore year, his second year, with all the wide receivers stretching the field for them. He might just get more passes down the middle at some point, and maybe even really develop as a blocker who can really help out Pollard with that sort of stuff there. So meanwhile, you got the New York Giants, who also do appear to be mid in just about every offensive category, like tied for 15th with like the points and all that sort of stuff. The amount of passing yards per game for the Giants was only 185.7, which ranked 26th. However, their rushing yards per game was 148.2, which ranked 4th in the league. And I think we all know who we have to thank for that, Mr. Saquon Barkley, who was finally healthy last year and did a lot of damage. And all signs point to him looking like he'll be doing just as much damage and all that. So the player I want to highlight, though, is Evan Neal. Those of us who follow the draft probably remember this name quite a bit. 2020 round 1, selection 7 draft pick. I remember a lot of times he was talked about as the number 1 overall pick potentially, but he didn't have a really good first year. His overall PFF grade last year was 41.8, which was pretty low. Pass blocking grade 42.3, again low, and then run block grade 48.1. So there's a lot of room for improvement with Evan Neal there. So especially since you were drafted so high. So if he can get on track, then the running game should continue to thrive there. So, but I think I'm gonna give the check mark here to Dallas just because they have too many weapons. They've really proven that they can put points on the board last year, and they pretty much have just about everything you would need on the offense, and yeah. So this one is an obvious one, whereas the Giants, like basically the running game is their biggest asset. Onto the defense now. When I took a look at Dallas's defense from last year, I also noticed that they were ranked high up there in terms of points allowed, but then also mid in pretty much most of the other categories when concerning yards. So as far as points, they allowed 342 points, which ranked sixth, and points per game was 20.1, which ranked fifth. I also noticed that the amount of passing yards that they gave up was 200.9, which ranked eighth, which was above average there. So credit a good secondary that for that. The likes of Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore. And not to mention that you have arguably the best defensive player in the game with Micah Parsons, who's still, rushing the quarterback and being used in several different ways there. So, because Parsons will probably command a lot of attention, that may leave room for growth for the Cowboys defensive player I'd like to highlight here. His name there looks hard to pronounce. Osa Adegezua. He was drafted in the year 2021, so just a few years ago in round 3, selection 75. His overall defensive grade last year was 68.2, which was a significant increase from his rookie year where it was 46.9. His run defense grade is 58.6. So keep in mind the Cowboys selected Mazi Smith in the first round, who's known for stopping the run. So, but Oza, his pass rush grade is 70.2, which was pretty good. Not the best, but not the worst. And then his coverage, they have a coverage grade for him, even though he's a defensive lineman, and that's 66.4. So this could be one of the players that they have who's on a rookie contract that could still see some upside. And the majority of the plays that he was on last year, 405 to be exactly, were the passing snaps as opposed to the 301 running snaps he was in. So he looks like he could be an option to try to put pressure on the quarterback. Meanwhile, for the New York Giants, it seemed like every time I heard about them last season that they were known for their defense. I looked at their statistics and they looked really mid in terms of putting up points everywhere. And however, I noticed yards allowed per game was 358.2. Which ranked 25th. So it looks like they would be mid at best, although they do have some rookies coming in to help out with the secondary there. And you also have Kayvon Thibodeau in his second year, who I guess he started off injured, but he had a really good game against Washington where he did a lot of damage and even got a touchdown. But for edge rusher who was talked about as the unanimous number 1 overall pick for a while, along with Evan Neal, who they drafted up, 5th overall. You think he would get up there to at least all pro status. So But if they don't, they have the likes of Dexter Lawrence, who had a 91.6 PFF grade last year. So the Giants seem to show promise on their defensive line there. The defensive player I want to highlight here is cornerback Adoree Jackson. He, as far as the starting on it looks, as far as projections go and everything, he looks like he's going to be the most experienced of the cornerbacks there. When you have Deontay Banks as well as Hawkins a third, both rookies, both drafted this earlier this year, and I think a lot of responsibility will be looked at for him to be able to, help herd the rookies into getting used to the NFL. So his PFF overall grade was 70.8, so not the best, not the worst. Pass rushing grade 58.3, coverage grade 71, so decent. And then run defense grade 62.7. He's been in the league since 2017, from USC. So I think this particular defensive player will probably be the key for trying to stop Dallas's bigger receivers during this game. And who am I giving the check mark to? I initially wanted to give it to the Giants, but just taking a closer look to how mid their statistics looked, early on, and they have a promising defensive, couple of good defensive line players that probably will get better, and a couple of rookies at cornerback. It's hard to justify picking them over Dallas, who kind of like their offense, like they rank toward the top in giving up fewer points, but they're still mid in giving up yards and that sort of thing. Not to mention that you have the reigning defensive player of the year in Micah Parsons, as well as other contributors that we hear about, like Diggs and Gilmore and Maze Smith, who could be a productive rookie. So I gave the check mark here to Dallas Cowboys. Special teams. Once again, I am shouting out to Dan Fornick, who wrote an article titled NFL Special Teams Rankings 2023 for ftnfantasy.com. This is my main resource for trying to find statistics and trying to figure out who special teams players are, because as I've found out as a casual NFL fan, it is really difficult to find any useful, productive statistics when it comes to special teams. And yet special teams is one of the most overlooked and most important parts of the game. You never hear about it when things are going perfect, but when extra points or field goals are getting missed, or people trying to return the ball are getting fumbled, then that's when you hear about it. So as far as the Dallas Cowboys go, they got Tristan Vizcaino, hopefully I said that right, as the kicker, while Brian Angler is the punter, and then their all-pro kick returner and punt returner, who is the person I'm highlighting as one of the keys for their special teams, is Kevontae. Yep, I said that right, I think. Kevontae Turpin, who he made the All-Pro last year for his role on special teams. How do you like that? And he averaged 24.2 yards per kick and 10.4 yards per punt return, in his first season there. So kudos to him. And I will point out that as far as special teams go, PFF ranked the Dallas Cowboys as 16th, while the FTN Fantasy website ranked them 25th. So, take that for what it's worth. The New York Giants special teams, long story short, they have a really reliable kicker in Graham Gano. Hopefully I said that right too. In his fourth season with them, and he's converted on 91.8% of his field goal attempts, including 20 out of 25 from over 50 yards. The punter is Jamie Gillen. The kick returner is Gary Brightwell. And the highlighted player I have is Graham Gano for everything that I just talked about here. I talked about Adoree Jackson a little bit ago, and he is going to be in contention with two other people from what it looks like, Jamison Crowder and Darnay Holmes for who's going to be the punt returner. So it sounds like things are still getting ironed out there. Who am I giving the check mark to? This was, before I say that, I guess I should point out that PFF had the special teams for the Giants ranked 26th, while the FTN Fantasy article that I'm citing has them ranked all the way up at 8. So that's kind of tricky to go with there in terms of getting the check mark. Things are like all over the place there. Yep. I feel like the Giants have the more reliable kicker, but the Cowboys have the all-pro kick returner and punt returner, which in my opinion is really important for special teams because that can set the offense up to be able to have more success if they can bring the ball out far enough and even maybe get a touchdown. So because of Turpin, I gave the check mark to the Dallas Cowboys. Coaching. Dallas Cowboys. They have Mike McCarthy, who they brought in 2020 after several years with the Green Bay Packers and got a Super Bowl victory with them but way back over a decade ago. And not only that, but it sounds like he's going to be calling the plays this year after they let go of the offensive coordinator they had last year. So who is their new offensive coordinator who will not be calling the plays? Brian Schottenheimer. Based on what I'm hearing in reports, he won't be calling the plays because the head coach will be calling him. And we'll see how it goes. I don't really know much about Brian besides him being his first time here as the offensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys is a name people might remember from the days when the Seattle Seahawks were really, really good Super Bowl contenders with the Legion of Boom. Their defensive coordinator, as well as the Atlanta Falcons head coach for a while, even getting him to the Super Bowl that one year, Dan Quinn. He's been their defensive coordinator since the 2021 season, and he might still possibly be a head coaching candidate, anywhere. So they got a really good defense person to help out their defense, the Cowboys defense there. So which helps the Cowboys be more and more of a well-balanced team there. Moving on to the coaches for the Giants, we have Brian Daboll, the reigning NFL Coach of the Year from last year, and he basically came in and is this was pretty much his first season here head coaching after several years as an offensive coordinator for teams like the Cleveland Browns, Miami Dolphins, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Buffalo Bills, and even with college for the Alabama Crimson Tide. So everybody talked about the Giants as being well coached last year, and Daboll earned the award for that. So that's one of the biggest strengths this organization has had, especially new regime taking over. So they got a good one with Brian. The offensive coordinator is Mike Kafka, and he's in his second season now, along with Brian there. So, and he's the offensive coordinator, and he's in his 7th season overall as a NFL coach. And he helped significantly make better the offense for the New York Giants. And the defensive coordinator, his name is Don Martindale. And he is also gonna enter his second year, so he was hired in right around the same time there. And he's not there's not much to know about him, but as we keep saying, the Giants coaching staff as well as Brian DeBell did a really really good job here. So I think there's only so high so far. There's only room to grow from that. So I think in this particular case, I know the Cowboys got experienced coaches who have had success before, but I think I'll give this check mark to the Giants just because what have you done for me lately? These coaches seem to be doing really well, considering a lot of their stats and their players are mid at the moment. So my final verdict. Dallas Cowboys, they've had 7 Pro Bowlers this last season, while the Giants have had just 2. And then let's look at last year. These 2 teams played each other again during primetime. They're in the same division, so they'll play each other twice. But last year during week 2 on Monday Night Football, Dallas, as the road team, defeated the Giants by a score of 23-16. And then during Thanksgiving night, week 12 on Thursday Night Football during Thanksgiving, the Cowboys also defeated the New York Giants at home by a score of 28-20. And I see no reason why the Cowboys shouldn't be able to continue winning. I'm giving them the check mark. I'm predicting that they're going to win. They're just too talented. They're one of the top teams in the NFC. They have a lot of playmakers on offense. One of the top 10 quarterbacks who has a backup quarterback breathing down his neck, which should motivate him to play better. And they have pieces on defense and coached by a really good defensive coordinator and the best defensive player last year in Micah Parsons. And meanwhile, what do the Giants have? Essentially, good rookie coaching and a really good running back and a defensive line with upside and, rookie cornerbacks who might do well. So I like the Cowboys in this game, basically. And these are 2 of the teams we're going to be seeing a lot on primetime. And like I said, the Giants have like 4 primetime games within the first 6 games of the season, the first third of the season, while the Cowboys have like 3. So we'll be seeing quite a bit of them a lot. I'm sure I'm going to be talking about them a lot as I continue to do primetime previews, and I'm going to be watching this game here Sunday night when they get on, because that's what I said I'm going to do. And the Lions play the Cowboys, so that'll be later in the season, second to last game of the season. So might as well study up on them. So that's it. This is week 1. NFL season is kicking off. They kicked off with the Lions stunning everybody and beating the Kansas City Chiefs. One pride. And let's continue to get to know these teams as best we can. You can catch the game on NBC Peacock, whether it's on cable or you're live streaming it. That's where you can get it. So that's it for this video. Go Lions, one pride.